This is your host, Jay Warburton, inviting you to join me in another exciting episode in the Sportsman's Workshop Video Library series.
The mountains, plains, and forests of North America have for many generations supplied some of the finest big game hunting in the world. Far and wide across this vast continent, the sportsman has long savored the excitement of the hunt. Let's take a look at some of our more popular big game animals. The Dall sheep. The Dall ram retains its white color year-round and sports handsome curled horns that flare out at the tips. If you're going to hunt this fella, be prepared to do a lot of climbing. The Alaskan moose, the largest and possibly the most impressive of our antlered big game. The caribou, a native of the far north. He ranges from Greenland and the Arctic islands through Canada and Alaska. And a grizzly bear, named Ursus horribilis, or the horrible bear. The grizzly weighs 500 to 750 pounds. The elk. Hunting the high mountain valleys, you'll thrill to the sight of splendidly antlered bulls. The antelope, when in high gear, he can do 40 miles an hour, and you'd best forget about a shot. The mule deer, the largest of our native deer, and a real test of any man's marksmanship. This is the white-tailed deer, found in most parts of the United States and in greater numbers than the western mule deer. The peccary or javelina, a quick, tough little customer whose speed and deception makes him a real challenge. The mountain lion, puma or cougar, silent as a shadow. To some hunters, the finest trophy of them all. Alaska, the storied mecca of North American big game, where Mount McKinley rises 21,000 feet out of lush green valleys. High above timberline, we find the white or Dall sheep. Standing on top of the world, the courtly rams strut like warrior chieftains, challenging the skill and stamina of the most ardent hunter. This much sought-after trophy inhabits the mountain ranges of Alaska and the Yukon Territory. Further down on the slopes, but still well above timberline, we find the ewes and lambs, looking for salt licks in the rocks. Moving very gingerly around the precarious heights. Or playfully butting with each other with no concern for the footing. Ewes and lambs remain separate from the mature rams until the mating season. A young ram will stay with the ewes until he's 2 or 3 years old. This fella finally decides retreat is the better part of valor. And at the first jump, the whole band is off and running. Moving back up to the high rocky ridges, we see the mature rams, an imposing sight guaranteed to quicken the pulse rate. Excitement mounts as we search through the glasses for just the right trophy. The stalk must be made slowly, silently, and if possible, from above. Rams usually expect danger from below. If you make the wrong move and start them running, your chances for a fine trophy have all but passed. Once they disappear over that rise, it may mean hours more of climbing and careful stalking before you can get close enough for a good shot. A good Dall ram can weigh 200 pounds or better. This is a good ram with almost a full curl, but he's gotten wind of us and he's moving on. Here's the one we've been looking for. There's your shot. You're above him, so hold a little high with the crosshairs, just above the foreshoulder. Squeeze the trigger slowly. If you jerk, you may only wound the animal. Should your ram have a curl of more than 48 5/8 inches, around the outside and a base circumference of at least 14 3/4 inches, you may have a new world's record. There's no more highly prized trophy than a mature Dell Ram. A rifle chambered for a high-velocity cartridge with good wind bucking characteristics is preferable for Dell sheep. Recommended calibers 270 to 30 caliber magnums. Let's move to British Columbia for grizzly bear. The grizzly inhabits the remote areas from Mexico to the Arctic Circle, the majority of the population being in Alaska and British Columbia. Along the slopes, we come on a sow and 2 husky cubs feeding on berries and mountain cabbage. Under these circumstances, a sow grizzly is both unpredictable and dangerous. Give her a wide berth. Always keep your wind clear. She may not have perfect vision, but her nose is excellent. Cubs haven't a care in the world and love to lie on their backs to get an itchy spot. Oh, that feels good. Hungry bears will supplement their vegetable diet with fresh meats, and they're very fond of marmots, ground squirrels, and mice, which usually fill this requirement. These cubs will remain with the sow for about 2 years or until she starts a new family. As long as this old girl has those cubs with her, she's going to have a nastier disposition than your mother-in-law. She'll weigh upwards of 500 pounds and can move that weight with incredible speed. Early trappers with primitive rifles found this out the hard way. And in a foot race with the grizzly bear, there aren't any points for second place. Here's a fine male grizzly. He hasn't seen us yet, and he's just right for a perfect shot. Hold the crosshair low and slightly back on his foreshoulder. Your first shot should be carefully placed since a wounded grizzly is extremely dangerous. Suppose instead of running off, this fella dropped in his tracks. Don't assume for 1 minute that he's dead. With another shell in the chamber, throw several stones or give a loud yell before approaching. Even if he doesn't respond, wait a few minutes. You only have to make one mistake with a wounded grizzly. We're still in British Columbia, and next on our schedule is mountain caribou. They frequent open plateaus and foothills. Caribou bulls display spectacular spread and variation of antlers, and caribou meat is considered among the most delicious of wild game. Cow caribou have short antlers, white fringed tails, and well-splayed feet. Doesn't she remind you of a woman at the supermarket who can't remember where she parked the car? Once underway, caribou run with an unmistakably long, springy gait. That is, if they can decide which way to go. It's somewhat before the hunting season, and these bulls are still in the velvet. Caribou heads show a greater variation than any other antlered big game. Notice the difference in these two heads. The lead bull has longer antlers and a wider spread, making him a better trophy. The mountain caribou is the largest of the 3 major species of caribou. A bull will stand over 4 feet at the shoulder and weigh upwards of 600 pounds. This bull has a beautiful rack. Notice the double brow tine coming down over the nose. This is called a double shovel and is quite rare. A very close shot at a caribou is infrequent since most are over 200 yards. A reliable scope is a must, generally a 4 power or better. How's that for a shot? A rifle in 7mm Magnum or 30-06 caliber will stop a caribou. We're in grizzly bear country, so you may want to go to the 30 caliber Magnum. In order to better the world's record, a bull's antlers must measure 50 inches in length and score a total of 463 points under the Boone and Crockett scoring system. Rocky Mountains of the western United States contain some of the best area in North America for elk. In summer, the cows bring their calves out onto the grassy slopes where forage is plentiful. They don't always have these gentle hills all to themselves, however. A prowling mountain lion is enough to start her looking for a more peaceful spot. Hunters realize, nonetheless, that mountain lion predation on antlered game is normal and beneficial. The bulk of the elk population can be found in the forested regions in the Northwest and the Rocky Mountains, ranging from New Mexico through Alberta and British Columbia. The best hunting is early morning or late afternoon, when elk are more likely to be feeding out in the open. Getting late in the day and our feline friend still hasn't had a square meal. An elk can detect smell for half a mile, so stalk them slowly and into the wind. It may be a long time between meals for this lion. Not so easily discouraged as the cougar, we pick up another herd on the other side of the river. The Boone and Crockett Club record elk has 15 points, a 5-foot main beam, and over 45-inch spread. A good bull will stand 60 inches if the withers and weigh close to 1,000 pounds. An elk is trophy size if antler length approaches body length measured from brisket to hams. Here's a fine bull and a clear shot. The range and angle are right, so you can go for a neck shot. Don't make the mistake of holding too high. Put your crosshair low towards the body. Now squeeze. Don't try a net shot unless conditions are just right. The first heavy wet snowfall generally starts elk down out of their summer range in the mountains. They drift down slowly in loosely knit bands, their objective being the smooth, gently rolling foothill ranges where the wind will blow the snow off the southern slopes and give them access to the grass. Winter pasture is generally the bottleneck of elk population, and a cougar's occasional killing is exactly what the herd needs. The bull elk is one of the 3 toughest North American big game animals to bring down, so don't be undergunned. The 3006 category is about the minimum, and the 300 to 338 Magnum class with bullet weights of at least 200 grains are considered excellent elk cartridges. We move now to the Teton country in the plains of Wyoming, where we find the pronghorn or American antelope in abundance. In nature's balance, speed sometimes means survival, and this youngster learned his lessons early. He's just 1 day old, but he can cover a lot of ground. Does with twin fawns are not uncommon in a healthy herd. But sometimes they get stuck with the neighbor kids too. Antelope's eyesight is 8 times as acute as a man's, and the broad plains of his home range let him use it to full advantage. You'll need a fast, flat shooting rifle scoped for long-range shooting. Calibers from .243 to .270 are often recommended. Pronghorn range from Mexico west to California, east into Nebraska, and north to the broad expanses of Alberta and Saskatchewan. This is just a little playful sparring. Later on, they'll be dead serious. Antelope are small. A mature buck won't weigh much over 100 pounds. They are quick to spook, and a buck has spotted an intruder. Now a doe senses something. And here's the culprit, a coyote. When he's hungry, he'll follow a herd, hoping to pull down a young straggler. The doe is becoming restless, and as the coyote gets closer, she decides it's time to take some positive action. Our unwelcome visitor now has summoned help, possibly hoping that 2 of them can surprise a fawn. They spotted a doe with fawns watering. Their efforts will net them nothing here. This keen-eyed doe has them spotted, And there they go. The coyote attempts a half-hearted chase. The flash is given. The alarm is sounded, and your careful stalk is out the window. If you try a running shot, give him enough lead. Most hunters underestimate the speed of a pronghorn. The result is too many shot-up midsections and hams. Good sportsmanship demands clean kills. If you're a good shot and your rifle is sighted in properly, you may want to take a running shot. Hold your crosshairs well in front. When you've got your lead, keep your rifle swinging and don't stop when you shoot. Follow through. If you did it right, you can have a nice trophy for your den. Boy, they're all in the move now. Look at them go. Everybody wants to get into the act. If you've missed, there'll be another day. But don't try impossible shots. It isn't fair to this fine game animal.
My dad and I have owned Ford trucks for as long as I can remember. If somebody had told me 3 months ago that I'd be driving a Chevy truck, well, I wouldn't have believed them. Well, I took a look at the new Chevy truck, and they've totally redesigned the truck and test drove it. That was enough to sell me on it. It's got the Vortec V6. It's got plenty of power. They've had tough competition from Ford, and they've beat them.
The heartbeat of America, that's today's Chevy truck.
Chevrolet's done their homework on this truck.
Timbered slopes of the western mountain ranges are generally fine big game areas. Where there's big game, there are generally hungry mountain lions. Here, the object of his attention is a young buck mule deer. And at this point, it's even money who comes out ahead. Those large ears aren't just decoration, and he senses something amiss. The cougar's range extends from Canada into South America, but lies mostly along the western slopes of the Rocky Mountains. The mountain lion's toll of game animals and livestock is light, but he's an important natural factor in game management, and cougar should be hunted as a game animal and not needlessly slaughtered for bounty. This looks like we stepped into deer hunter's heaven. Although still in the velvet, these Utah muleys are enough to give any man buck fever. The mule deer is largely a western animal, found primarily from Colorado west to California, from Mexico north to Canada. However, they can also be found in smaller numbers through Nebraska, the Dakotas, and Minnesota. The peculiar bounding gait of the mule deer gives it an added advantage in thick brush or heavy timber and makes it a very difficult target, like shooting at a yo-yo. In most areas, when the aspens have turned gold, the mule deer season is here. If the summer forage is good and water plentiful, the bucks will be fat and sleek. To bag a record typical mule deer, he will have to have a spread of nearly 27 inches plus 12 points. Let's move east for white-tailed deer. The whitetail is found from Canada through most of the eastern central states, south into Mexico and Central America. They will wade chest deep into beaver ponds after tender lily pads and to avoid deer flies. They appear nervous, and their ears are always active and alert to every sound. Whitetails are hunted more heavily than the mule deer, and in dense forest growth, shots are often under 100 yards. They are very adaptable, however, and their numbers increase each year, even in areas of dense human population. Despite a yearly harvest by hunters of approximately 900,000, winter browse is still insufficient in many areas, and heavy winter losses are not uncommon. Due to dense undergrowth and the close proximity to civilization, white whitetails are hunted with shotguns in many states. The load is generally double-aught buck or the rifled slug. Riflemen prefer a lower velocity cartridge with a heavy brush-cutting bullet. One of the largest concentrations of whitetail bear is in the yucca cactus country of South Texas. Here the deer bed down in the live oak and feed in adjacent openings. This is a nice buck, but he has a jump on you and he's moving too fast for a clean shot. If you're hunting whitetail, go slow. Otherwise, your first sight of the buck may be when he's on the dead run, and then it's too late. Whitetails will not always run in a straight line, but will often circle. So keep looking behind you. You may discover you're being followed. For sheer grace, watch this doe cover ground. The flag is up. And everybody's off and running. Last-minute curiosity can be fatal. Your target will not always present you with a standing broadside. This buck is quartering away. He's not moving very fast yet. Hold aft of his foreshoulder and keep the rifle swinging as you shoot. Don't shoot now unless you're prepared to tag 2 bucks. The hot desert regions of Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico are home to the wily little peccary or javelina. In spite of his impressive dental work, the ferocity of this New World pig has been greatly exaggerated. These succulent little beasts stand about 20 to 22 inches high at the shoulder and weigh 40 to 60 pounds. Their diet varies from prickly pear to small rodents, acorns, and mesquite beans. Prickly pear cactus is perhaps their favorite food, and he seems completely oblivious to the spines and nettles. The skin of these cactus pads is of very high nutrient value. This little big game animal is so elusive that only about 20% of those who hunt him are successful. When alarmed, a large musk gland on the upper rump of the peccary secretes a foul-smelling liquid that warns his friends and is most offensive to his enemies. An example of nature's intriguing methods for survival. Back to Alaska and the largest of North American big game animals, the Alaskan moose. The Kenai Peninsula boasts the largest of these magnificent beasts, and the tender lake bottom grasses and stands of young willows provide forage for their substantial appetites. A good Alaska moose will stand 7 feet at the withers, have an antler spread of over 6 feet, and weigh nearly 1,800 pounds. The Wyoming and Canada species of moose are considerably smaller. They seldom graze, but are browsers, and prefer the tender shoots of willows and other brushy plants. After a period of feeding, they lie down and chew their cud. Moose can often be found in the lake regions where they will feed half submerged on bottom grass. The long gangly legs and widely splayed hoofs of the moose make it well suited to this type of feeding. Sometimes moose are hunted from a canoe, as well as on horseback or afoot, all with good results. When aroused, a moose can retreat from this watery pasture with amazing speed. But give him firm ground before you shoot. In turning to depart, he can hardly resist another dive. American goldeneye share these mountain lakes with the moose, and mother escorts her compact little brood along the opposite shore. So-called Alaska cotton makes a good background for her as she maneuvers her family away from the 2 massive bulls that have entered the upper end of the lake. The Alaska moose is a big animal and requires a cartridge with a lot of stopping power. Something from a 300 to 375 Magnum with 220 to 300 grain bullet is often recommended. Good sportsmanship and conservation go hand in hand. National and local wildlife conservation organizations spend much time and money to ensure that our big game herds are well managed and that the rights and privileges of the outdoorsman are protected. Wherever you hunt, we hope you will be conservationists, have a sporting regard for your game, and help maintain the beauty of your American wilderness.